Welcome to the Codeplay Culture podcast, where we discuss tech, gaming, health, and the world around us.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Codeplay Culture podcast. Rui and our guest, resident expert in all things crypto, blockchain, basically a bunch of acronyms and other stuff like that that makes everyone feel like, what's going on? But the real thing is, Carl doesn't know exactly what's going on, but he knows more than anyone I've ever met about this stuff. And I don't know. Welcome back, Carl. Thank you for coming. And hello, Rui. How are you? Sorry, we lost Rui.
I said I'm doing well, thank you. Yeah, I was saying that none of us know what's really going on. It's not just
yeah. Okay, fair enough.
You know, we're all in the dark.
We're all learning.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think that's one of the tactics with crypto is it's like, all right, let's come out with something just so complicated that but there's investment opportunities like crazy. But like everyone will feel like nothing, like they don't know like anything about it. But then, or do you think it's kind of the allure of crypto is like how complicated it is to learn?
Yeah, I mean it could be, but you know what? It's one of those things where you invest and you make it. All of a sudden you feel like you're an expert. that's
yeah.
my experience. I've invested and I feel like I know it, but I know.
Yeah, you know, if you put $100 on a stock, you might start feeling like you know more than you do.
Yeah.
And then when you increase that to $500, and then you maybe grow up to 1,000 or whatever, you start thinking you know more than you do. And I think that's just human nature. Mm-hmm. I don't think Bitcoin and crypto are any more complicated than trying to understand Amazon's cloud business for people that don't know anything about computing, or if people were trying to understand, Google search back in 1999. Or even Netflix, or like streaming video, or YouTube, which is owned by Google. Even if you're trying to understand people that are investing in interest in technology, trying to understand Palo Alto or Cisco or FortiGate, like what do those companies do? Snowflake, people in the industry barely know well, not everybody, but there's a lot of people in the industry that don't really understand how all this stuff works.
Yeah.
Whether it's blockchain or just traditional IT. And that's just the way it goes. That's technology. It's there's a lot to it, but it's not. I don't think it's super complicated. I just think there's a lot to it. And if you're willing to wrap your head around it and understand what you don't need to know versus what you do need to know, like you don't need to know how the engine in a car works to be an investor in a car company.
Right. Or that's a great analogy.
It's probably one of the best analogies. It is very scary if you're the first person driving the first car and you don't understand it. Some people, I'm sure they just jump right in, right? There's always those people that don't care and jump right in.
Yeah, the new adopter, high risk, high reward.
Yeah. There's the early adopters, the middle range, and then the late adopters. So everyone's going to fall on a different level of that scale.
Yeah, with the majority being the late adopters, of course, and the rich being the early.
Yeah, it's that hockey stick curve. The early adopters they get in early, start making. Do I have it right?
Yeah, it looks about right.
I think it's the inverse, isn't it? It's like the price shoots up with the early adopters, and then when the mid to late adopters get involved around here, the price shoots up at a slower slope. It's going up it's still going up, but it's at a less the rate of change and increases slower.
Right. Yeah. What's your experience, Logan, with investing in crypto? I know you dabbled in it a little bit, right?
Yeah. So honestly, it's very minimal. I think I put in like $1,000 into Bitcoin and Cardano and just let it sit. And when I let it sit, it's like now it's like $500 each or whatever. Like it's like, what was the thing that you said last time, Rui? Is like perfect. It's like don't invest anything that you're not ready to immediately lose, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm like a dumb, like, I'm like, oh, Bitcoin, I'll
Right.
just put in, whatever. But that's it. Like, I don't like monitor. I don't look. But the only thing I will say with like Simple is like where
Hmm.
I use to do the. Actually, I use a different one for. Well, they have it now that you could do both in there. But
Yeah.
I use the one that you recommended, which is like at the time. What's the name of that
Oh,
one?
crypto.com.
Yeah, is that
Yeah.
the app with the
Yeah.
blue background or whatever?
Yeah.
But like I noticed, like Simple, like all of the tech stocks have been going up recently. I don't
Hmm.
follow the market. I'm like, oh, that's a lot. The dividends just keep on pumping in. It's like, granted they're like, whatever amount, right? It's like
Yeah.
they're tiny amounts for me. I don't have much in stocks, but
Right.
like I just feel like tech is up, but like is 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 Bitcoin up? Like I don't follow that stuff, like market trends and stuff. Like, is it better? I'm still down. I believe in like $1,000 I put into Bitcoin like a year ago or something like that. But like, are you guys
Hmm.
noticing like you guys have a different approach where like, you're kind of, a little bit more in tune of like, okay, this is a good opportunity for do this and that. And,
Yeah.
but I'm like that dumb grandma that just, I'll put in I'll put in a grand and then like I lose the money kind of thing. But like you guys are like almost like the stockbrokers that take grandma's money.
I look at CoinGecko almost every day to see the prices of crypto.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at the top top 20, top 50. Sometimes I scroll through to the top 100. So all the top 100 is on one page. And I use TradingView just to monitor pricing on there so I can have a custom list of both stocks and crypto. I think what's going on right now is last year tech stocks took a beating, and now
Mm-hmm.
this year they've started to recover. And Bitcoin, after the Bitcoin took a beating last year too, after the Silicon Valley bank collapse, and there was Signature
Mm.
Bank, and
Yeah.
there was another bank that started with S, which I forget what it was called.
Yeah, whatever that one is. That the recent one, like a couple months
Silvergate,
ago. Or?
Silvergate Bank. After those banks had their issues about a month ago, then Bitcoin started going up, and it's speculated that more people are buying Bitcoins because they understand the value of Bitcoin as a store of value. Where unlike a bank that is locked you out of your cash, you can't get locked out of Bitcoin as long as you own your own keys.
That
Right.
makes sense. Yeah.
There is
Of
some
the
other speculation.
decentralizedness.
Yeah, there's some other speculation on why Bitcoin price is going up too. It's possibly that some uh, institutions are starting to buy it. So I mean, nobody really knows, but you kind of get a general feeling that maybe right, like 80% right or 70% right when you start watching, like I mentioned before, various people on YouTube. If you watch people that you believe and you trust, there's a lot of YouTubers that are sensationalists and hypists, and they're always pumping the
Right.
latest altcoin, um, or ways to make yield on yield farming and liquidity pools, which we can talk
Right.
about later if you guys have any questions about that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's certainly an interesting marketplace, and for both stocks and crypto if you're following it day to day,
Hmm.
week to week. I do remember though, there's a quote, I think it was Warren Buffett said that the day-to-day action, the week-to-week, month-to-month action is a lot of it is just noise. Like if you take a step back and zoom
Mm.
out and look at key fundamentals and what's really going on, that's going to drive markets down that 1 to 5 year play or even 10-year play, then you
Hmm.
can free your mind and free your time of focusing on a lot of the day-to-day
Right.
headlines in the news, because there's always day-to-day headlines, whether it's Twitter or on the crypto news sites. They want you to click, they want your attention, they want to sell ads,
Hmm.
and some of it might be relevant to you depending on what your strategy is, but a lot of it just becomes, I think most people get sucked into it. It's like you think you need to know it, you think it's relevant, and it is interesting, so you get sucked into it because it's an interesting article, but is it really 100% relevant to what you want to do? So we're
Hmm.
living in an age where as you guys know, like on Google and YouTube and now with ChatGPT, it's there's so much information that the challenge isn't necessarily what to focus on, it's what to not focus on.
Yeah.
Right.
We were talking about this on last week's episode with Paulina, right?
Yeah.
It was a Denzel. He's like, what's a long-term negative mental, psychological, cognitive effect of too much information and unplugging? And that Eckhart Tolle quote where he's like, why is it that we live in a society that it's almost like it's deliberately getting us to hold our attention on a bunch of things, almost like trying to take away stillness. Like, why is it so blatantly taking away our stillness? And how much more important stillness is in a over information rich society, right? So, like unplugging or taking a step back, right? Which, don't click that link, don't let it get your attention. And
Right.
probably, honestly, Carl, like you have such a book of knowledge on this stuff. You probably would come up with better information by not being on a computer for like a full 24 hours. Do you know what I mean? Because that silence or stillness and all of the knowledge you already possess is probably, you'll probably get deeper insights from within than from, in the net.
Absolutely. It's there's been a lot of, I think, I don't know if it's research, but a lot of books that I've read and articles that when you're actually sleeping or you're doing something like you're at the gym running or whatever, or even grocery shopping, a lot of that downtime is when you start to process concepts and like if you have a problem in the back of your head, like you're trying to figure something out for business or coding or whatever, the solution generally comes up, or part of that solution comes up, or some of the clarity to get you to the solution when you're not working on it, when you're sleeping,
Yeah.
or you're just about to wake up, or maybe just about to doze off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
For
I
sure.
find with me, I'm working on so many different things, whether it's looking into blockchain or coding, um, uh, music. That when I'm not around a computer, I'm not necessarily thinking about blockchain and crypto. I might be thinking about something else.
Mhm.
So, and if I get down a tangent of something else, like if I'm working on music and I'm deep in music, I don't even think about blockchain and crypto. I might,
Yeah.
you know, watch 5 or 10 minutes of videos per day while I'm doing the dishes, just to stay current and maybe flip through the pricing. But I'm not spending too much time on it because I'm just so deep into something else. And then it will
Yeah.
flip. Like the past few days, I've just been coding, and there's always a dichotomy too with me. When I flip, I'm still like, that flip is not necessarily. It's not always a comfortable flip. I'm still kind of like, I don't want to be spending all this time coding. It wasn't really
Mhm.
what I still want to do other things. So
Yeah.
start playing mind games. But with too much information coming in, uh, through whatever you're reading on the internet, whether you're listening to podcasts or even just talking to people,
Mhm.
it's like you get a dopamine rush and whatever serotonin pumps up your brain, and you are generally learning things. You may not be able to digest everything you learn, right? Because you just keep going on and on to the next thing. But then I think a lot of it is also, or a lot of the willingness, or the desire to expose yourself to clicking on the next link, scrolling for the next tweet, is you're chasing that high, that
Yeah.
dopamine high. And then that's a known fact too, right? There's been a lot of studies and research
Mhm.
that the tech companies have done to leverage that dopamine high. And then what happens is you get a dopamine crash, or
Yeah.
whatever those chemicals are, whether it's dopamine, serotonin, or whatever. You get a crash, and then
Hmm.
I think for a lot of people, I can speak for myself, that crash generally leads to um, overwatching TV, because
Mhm.
or Netflix or whatever, because you're not with Netflix, you're not driving, you're not using a mouse, you're not
Yeah.
typing in
For
search.
sure.
It's a totally, and you're not necessarily talking to other people. Um, and so you can crash that way. And then there's everyone, I think, has their own way of crashing and trying to recover from that overexposure. And,
Yep.
a lot of people will eventually just turn things off and go out and go be more social. But for some people, they tune out by playing video games, and for other people, playing video games is what they do. So they have to tune out away by not playing video games, and
Yeah.
so
Right.
it's
Yep.
like, why is our culture going this way? Um,
Mm.
I think maybe that's just why Elon Musk is so concerned about AI, because it's once technology starts taking root
Mhm.
and shows that its usefulness, technology doesn't care necessarily about the humanity. Like, I mean, I'm not sure what a good analogy is, but like, if you look at the convenience of various technologies, they don't care when they kill people, like nuclear
Mm.
Right.
technology,
Yeah.
or train crashes or car crashes, or medical side effects of various medical procedures or whatever that go sideways. I mean, a lot of that's uh, human folly or human mistakes that are,
Yeah.
performing medical procedures, or whatever, providing, you know, um, prescribing OxyContin when they shouldn't be, or giving too much. A lot of that's a human thing more than a technology thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's a very strange time for
Yeah.
us. I think our age group that grew up. I'm assuming you guys grew up without cell phones.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You
Sure.
Yeah.
know,
My
and
first cell phone was like a flip phone that you could play Snake on. And you had to, like, when you wanted to text someone, I think you
Nokia.
had to use a number pad. Yeah, I think it was
Mm.
Nokia. And yeah, Elon's super concerned about AI. It's like I love his sentiment. He's like, it might just decide that it doesn't need these um, material or organic beings. It doesn't need them. Like, it's like, I don't need those, right? And just wipes them out.
yeah,
Like, there's no feeling with it. There's no like, oh, should I do it?
That's
Like a
terrible,
con.
man.
Um, However, I like Sam. Even though Sam, open AI guy, is like a little like, geez, like it's you can tell that like he obviously made AI. Do you know what I mean? Like, personality aside, is like it's like it's a he's missing a little bit of a human quality sometimes when he talks. But I love his approach. He's like, no, we'll just basically it'll be a tool, right? And we'll be able to just tap into things very quickly. And then it morphs society to more like idea based as opposed to more robotic. Okay, go code. Like, so Carl, like, if you're coding, you don't want to be coding. You would just tell the AI, hey, make this thing. And then you just validate it, push it out instead of, doing the work. You're now just giving it the ideas and whatnot. And did you guys see Elon open sourced Twitter? It was like a couple days
No, I
ago.
didn't know.
I
So
saw the tweet. Yeah,
it was like it's just not the whole thing, but a portion of it, right?
Mhm.
And I was like, oh my god, that is because of this whole where this society that will delete your account if you don't comply with whatever, and it's that
yeah.
it's like he's
Shadow
shadow banning,
banning,
yeah.
censorship, and
And
yeah,
then there was some lines in the code that was like, oh, if you're like a Democrat, then raise the tweet percent higher. If you're like, it was like lines of code in there,
Mhm.
but
That's terrible.
yeah, but he's doing it because he wants to be that differentiator of hey, we're completely open sourced, meaning that like what I want from a social platform is anything that's posted is organically pushed to the top of humanity, as long as it's not advocating hate and all that, right? Like, don't have the algorithm push it down because it's not as cool as Trump or something, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Right.
but yeah, that was kind of cool. Um, but yeah, it would be like the blockchain or the validated blockchain of social media, meaning that it's like bulletproof and it's not, I don't know, so manipulated by this internal team.
Yeah. That's I don't know how true it is. I just heard it on some YouTube crypto channel that, or it might have been some news clip, that the Congress in the U.S. they're now starting to wake up to how manipulated their media is, and I'm sure ours is too here in Canada and the rest of the G20 world, by the influence of big how do you call it, like big media, big tech, and government, certain various government agencies that were not elected. Like
Right.
whether it's the FBI or the CIA.
Blendjet, the portable blender that allows you to make delicious and healthy smoothies on the go. With its powerful motor and compact design, you can blend your favorite fruits and veggies anytime, anywhere. Say goodbye to unhealthy fast food and hello to a healthier lifestyle with Blendjet. For 12% off a Blendjet 2, use coupon code CODEPLAY12.
Or whoever.
Mm.
And so, we'll have to see where that goes. The promise of Bitcoin, well, sorry, not Bitcoin, but blockchain in terms of decentralization
Yeah.
would all those algorithms would be open sourced because it's decentralized and open source to begin with. And everything that, like, if you can't censor anything because it's on the blockchain, it's public.
Mm-hmm.
So the user interface, if they, could have an algorithm that just doesn't show it and censors it through the user interface, but then a competitor could say, "Hey, look, this social media company is censoring these posts that are on the blockchain. We're going to show them, or
Yeah.
we're gonna find them. We'll just write some code to find all these censored posts, and we'll write a blog post about it. We'll do some videos on YouTube, and
Mm.
we'll out this company with proof, with real world proof." So that's part of the promise of blockchain. Maybe Twitter will start using blockchain and becoming more decentralized and more open
Mm.
source. We'll see. Elon Musk, when he co-founded OpenAI, which is the parent company of ChatGPT. He
Yeah.
wanted it at the time. I think it was open source, and then he left some. I don't know if he left before it became closed source or just after, but
Mm.
yeah, the whole AI thing, whether it will become used as a tool, like a gun can be used for law enforcement or hunting, or it can be used to go and
Yeah.
do murder and whatnot.
Yeah.
But
AI is a gun for sure.
it's like a gun, right? Like right
Yeah.
now, Chat GPT is a very, very basic version of AI, but
Yeah.
you can still use Chat GPT to write spamware and ransomware and really accelerate your use of your ability to abuse and rip people off.
Will it let you do that? I actually tried to do that. It won't allow
Oh,
me.
Oh
that's a good
yeah. Yeah.
question.
Yeah, they do have those things, but there's a way to get people have made videos how to get around them, and I think they keep on getting because like once Chat GPT is like, no, I don't want to do anything like that. People have said to it, okay, let's just pretend hypothetically you wanted to
Right.
build dynamite or whatever you tell it, and let's say hypothetically or whatever, and then that at that point, Chat GPT is like, well, hypothetically, right, and then it goes into it. So they patched those, but people
Yeah.
are always trying to find a way to, because what we talk to, I guess, is not like the actual model. We
Hmm.
talk to like a broker, which will kind of guard it like on certain things. So we're not
Right.
talking to the real guy. Essentially, we're
Hmm.
talking to like, oh, Elon says he'll be there in 5 minutes. Like it's like a broker between. But
Yeah.
Really? I thought that
yeah,
was actually programmed into the model. They
it
call it
could
the
be.
safety.
It could be. Yeah, it could be.
I think it might be programmed right into the model. Don't quote
Okay.
me
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
that because I'm
Yeah.
still, I was listening to Sam Altman on the Lex Friedman
Yeah.
podcast.
Did you watch the whole thing?
No, I think I got
I
about
haven't.
20 minutes or so into it.
Yeah, I just watched a clip so far. I haven't like I want to like I don't know. I feel like I got to be driving somewhere to listen to a full podcast
Yeah,
or
I
walking.
stopped trying to listen to full podcasts. I just gave up on that because there's just too much information. Going back to the
Yeah.
information overload, and
So for those that are listening to this and you get to the end, thank you so much.
yeah.
Because yeah,
If I do listen to a full podcast, it's generally in segments, 10, 20 minutes here and there.
yep,
And I still will listen to the occasional full podcast if I find it really interesting. But what we're talking about, AI.
Yeah. No. Just to clarify, I did ask it to not to do anything super malicious. It was just to write a batch file. I believe it's called a fork bomb, and it wouldn't. It wouldn't do
did
it.
you say fork bomb?
That's
Yeah.
what it's called. A
Not
fork one.
nothing too malicious. Just delete
It,
everyone's hard drive except mine.
yeah. No, it actually
Yeah.
only affects the user's machine, which is pretty cool. I mean, you can probably
Nice.
deploy it somewhere, but yeah, I mean, you can do. It wouldn't let me, so I just you look it up on Google. You can find obviously everything.
Yeah.
You don't
Well,
need Chat GPT to tell you.
I tried to get ChatGPT to write me jokes about certain famous people,
Hmm.
or just about people in general. Like you give a person's name, and it won't write a joke about a hypothetical person. So I think I tricked it to write a joke about a mouse
Hmm.
instead of a person. It was a mouse, and then
Hmm.
I was able to fool it. I'm not sure, that was a few months ago. They might have fixed
Hmm.
it because they learn when people are you know tricking
Exploiting it.
Chat GPT. Yeah, say they're exploiting Chat GPT to do things that the company doesn't want it to do. It learns and then it will self correct.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, like ChatGPT it's fairly advanced, but in terms of like robotics and self-driving cars and the ability to actually, uh, like it's very basic in terms of what it can do for code writing, and
Hmm.
it's very
Yeah,
very cool.
it can't make intuitive decisions, right? It's
Yeah, but eventually AI will be able to, almost be like human, like general, what is it, artificial general intelligence,
Yeah. An
and
AGI.
then beyond that, I mean, what's going to happen when you have two different countries or two different companies in different countries competing against each other, or there's military, just like you can, military robots, and there's that military arms race in AI. But look at how like
a race to
guns
the end, man.
guns are probably a good example where you can buy machine guns or high powered rifles and all the damage that's doing in these school shootings. And what happens when AI gets into the wrong hands?
Hmm.
When it's easy to get AI that can do all kinds of strange and dangerous things that we may not be able to conceive of just yet. We can guess that it can hack into people's bank accounts, and it can maybe even
Yeah.
hack into Bitcoin's blockchain, unless it become. And then talking about blockchain, then there's quantum proofing that blockchains are working on, so that quantum computers can't hack into the blockchain. So there's
Hmm.
a lot of unknowns, and a lot of people are trying to work on these quantum protections on blockchains. But yeah, it's certainly an unknown to me, because I consider myself a generalist on most things that I dabble with.
Yeah.
And yeah, where's this world going with AI and even blockchain and Bitcoin? Like, where's that going?
Mm.
So
I
it's
mean, honestly, I think we're all going to come full circle. We're going to be in 300 years from now. We're going to be a technology less civilization. We're going to have no technology. It's all going to come just completely full circle. We're all
Oh,
going to
yeah,
be
for sure.
depending on farming and agriculture to survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, technology is going to eventually go extinct, and what's left is going to be just organic people. That's the full
Yeah.
circle.
why would technology go extinct?
It's going to extinct itself. At some point, the AI is going to cause so much loss of life. I shouldn't say AI in particular, but technology advancement is going to cause so much loss of life
Hmm.
that we are going to eradicate it collectively and decide to survive as a species. We have to eradicate technological advancement because that's what got us into this mess. That's how I
Mm.
foresee the next, say, 1,000 years.
Yeah. Wasn't there some like sentiment about like ancient Egypt or going back there on some Joe Rogan podcast that like we already were like super technologically advanced
Right,
and we
right,
abolished it? Like we've done this before, like
right.
before
It's just repeating itself. Yeah.
it's repeating itself. And then Elon's like, oh, we're just the biological bootstrappers for AI, like, so
Hmm.
Yeah.
at one point, maybe like if we don't eradicate it next, then, it'll be the other way. But
Right.
like at the end of the day, like, why are we, I get that why we're trying to advance civilization to learn more about like, what is this thing that someone has built or whatever, like where are we right now, like what is this contained in? Like what's our whatever,
Yeah.
we want to understand like why do we exist, like that's a fair question, so we seek that, like, okay, through technology and all that stuff. But I agree. Like just going for a walk, I get happier than sitting at a desk. Like farming, I would be more happy than having an iPhone.
Right.
I don't
Remember
know,
that thing we talked about in the last podcast about how we're not busy enough, hence all the psychological, issues that people are having more prevalent nowadays than before. We're not busy enough, right?
Right. Yeah, and
yeah.
the seeking and as if you complete more tasks, you get more dopamine, but then you crash, which affects your serotonin, so you're not happy. So remember, we were like, the more tasks you complete, the less happier you'll be. Oh, so how do you get happy? You just don't complete anything. Not you don't work on stuff and leave it unfinished. I'm not saying that. You do nothing, right? That will generate serotonin, just doing nothing. And it's funny. It was like, I noticed that like when I was skateboarding, it would pump adrenaline crazy. And the more hours I would skateboard, the more I would want to just go to LCBO. Right. And I couldn't understand that. Like I didn't, but I just had a feeling to want to. And then from a neurotransmitter level, if you think about it, the antagonist, well, at least in my perspective, antagonist to dopamine is serotonin, or I guess the opposite. And the opposite of adrenaline, like, the fight or flight or, extreme sports, is depression, right? Which is, I don't know what that would be, but if you get your adrenaline super heightened with stress and anxiety, you need to bring that down. Just same with dopamine. If you get that all pumped up, you need to bring that down, like serotonin or whatever, right? So I was like, okay, that's a little weird. So I skateboarded without music in my ears because that was like gangster rap and stuff. It was really pumping my adrenaline. And then I was like, when you leave the skate park, I'm like, now I'm more chill, So it's weird how these things need to balance. What goes up must come down, kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like humanity will probably abolish it, like you're saying, Rui, or it'll abolish us.
Right. I mean, if you look at, again, one of Darwin's laws is evolution always ends with extinction, right? And that's a natural process. So if AI is a human evolution, it will extinct us. We will at some point be extinct if we don't, halt it and revert back to an agrarian civilization, right?
Yeah. So Logan, you reminded me of just, a lot of professional athletes drink a lot of alcohol.
Yes.
I just hear stories. You don't hear them in the media, but friends.
Does that make me a professional athlete, or is it?
It makes you drink.
Well, you could be very stressed. The same thing. It's like just adrenaline is adrenaline, whether physical or mental, right? But you're an athlete, mental. You're a mental athlete.
Musicians too. There was, when musicians get off stage, they're playing in front of large audiences. Then there's that peak, and that peak allows them to drink more booze than they normally would. And then they wake up the next day, they're crashed, and they've got to figure it out. How do you get through the next day? And usually it doesn't start right away, but it starts with drinking before the next gig, instead of maybe they start drinking after the show, like, 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And they do that for a little while. And then whether it's weeks or months later, they start drinking before the gig, just even if it's one or two beers. Yeah. And then before they know it, they're drinking at lunchtime. And then if they're really hardcore, they're drinking at breakfast from the time they wake up, and they're drinking all day long. And then that's what happens to guys like, Guns N' Roses or whatever. It just becomes this kind of this addiction loop, right? Just you're trying to balance your energy levels.
Yeah, you're trying to get to homeostasis. So the body's like, okay, well, you're jacked in adrenaline right now, so you need to either numb it with something like I don't know, 50% moonshine, or you need to just go meditate for a bit. And you're like, okay, I like the moonshine option,
right?
And you're like, okay. But yeah, I agreed. Like that part is like, if you Google like skateboarders or like professionals, I would say like not 20%, maybe, I don't know, maybe around 20% is like they get out of it and get super hardcore into alcoholism. Because if you're constantly jumping towards tigers and stuff, right? You're going to be like, fuck, right? And then I got to bleep that at,
You start feeling superhuman too. You start
yeah.
feeling like you can take on more than you really can, and you might be able to take it on for the first week or two or month, but it will,
Mhm.
things catch up, and everyone's got a different way of dealing with it. I mean, not everyone who's prone to feeling that way is going to revert to alcohol.
Yeah,
There's a million other drugs people can choose, or people
for
can,
sure.
you know, there's, I think it was the singer in the Chili Peppers and the singer in Aerosmith. They became sex addicts, and
Mhm.
because they could, right? They had the time,
Yeah.
and they were rock stars, and women were, available to them. So everyone's got a different poison that they try and use to balance, and usually that, call it medicine, right? It's like you're
Mhm.
trying to find something to keep you balanced, and whether your
Mhm.
medicine is alcohol or some other drug or whatever you choose. Uh, in most cases, that people choose a bad medicine.
Yes.
You know?
Bon
We
Jovi.
Yeah, but going back to AI and extinction. So I was at a show.
It's like the hard turn back to extinction.
I
I
want
love
to I want to
that.
eventually bring it back
It's like, let's talk about being extinct
to
again.
blockchain and foolish investing. Um,
Back to investing in extinction.
foolish
And
foolish investing, not
oh
just
man,
investing, but
yeah,
foolishly.
fair enough.
Um,
That's
Mm.
that's a great,
so
like, look at that whole craziness that we just, like, yeah, it's like that's humanity right now. It's pretty actually accurate too. Like, this is where we are.
the I was at a trade show in San Diego. This is like 1995. It was about storage networking world. And one of the talks was, it started out with, uh, no, I forget exactly the phrase, but survival is not mandatory. And they showed a couple of slides of various animals and organisms that went extinct that were dominating on the planet for far longer than humans have dominated.
Mhm.
So, and it was about technology. It's like, the survival of your technology company or your technology product it's not mandatory. There's no rule in the universe that says that um, our species or us as individual people uh, or whatever products and companies we build will survive, right? So that's up to us to be aware and on top of things like that. So I don't think that AI is necessarily going to. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a one or the other uh, end result. Like if
Right.
you look at like nuclear energy, there's rules and limits on nuclear. There's still rules and limits on gun ownership,
Right.
and where you can buy guns, and that varies obviously by country, and it also depends on where you can take your gun. Whether it's you can take your gun into legally into certain um, shopping malls, conceal and carry. Like every culture, every country, even every state in the U.S. has different rules on that. Um, Obviously, if you look at the gun culture in the U.S., the rules are um, there. It's such a heated debate because the rules I don't think are helping. At the same
Mhm.
time, I don't think the problem is gun ownership. I think it's a mental health problem.
Yeah,
Mm.
for sure.
Now, there may be some issues surrounding gun ownership. Like, do you really need to be able to should someone be able to buy high-powered, semi-automatic weapons without any ID? I don't know if they need ID to buy weapons or bullets, but like I think there should be better balances. Like to go hunting or fishing in Canada and even in the U.S., you need a license, but I
Mhm.
don't think you need a license to own a gun in the U.S. But in Canada, you need a firearms license, right?
Yeah.
So weird, eh?
I think there
And
are some checks in the States
it
when it comes
depends
to
on the
that.
state too. In Canada, if you want to go hunting, you need both a hunting license and a firearms license. And there's tests. You have to take two separate tests.
Mm.
So there's checks and balances, but those checks and balances are put in at a human level. And if the humans, and this is Elon Musk's biggest um, concern with AI is that those checks and balances will not be put in place soon enough and quick enough. And his
Right.
analogy is seatbelts in cars were only made law, I think, after it might have been like 20 years after cars were on the market, and it was only
Right.
because people were dying. They didn't make it law to they weren't proactive. The laws are generally
Reactive.
reactive, and
Yeah.
you can look at it going back to blockchain.
Yeah.
The regulation on crypto and blockchain is reactive. Like they should have been looking at regulation on and into crypto. I don't know, like like 3, 4, 5 years ago. They waited so long that it's become such a heated issue, and everyone's
If you're looking for a unique, high quality puzzle experience, then Wongo Puzzles is for you. Their puzzles are handcrafted and made of premium quality wood, ensuring a long lasting and enjoyable puzzle solving experience. Why settle for mass produced plastic puzzles when you can have a one of a kind handmade Wongo puzzle? For 10% off Wongo Puzzles, use the coupon code CODEPLAY.
rushing to try and figure it out, whether it's at the
Yeah.
government level or at the companies that are going to be affected, like the Coinbases of the world. And it's like this scramble to try and figure it out. And there's a lot of misinformation. So people they're not willing to step back and take the time, so I don't know. I can't predict the future. That's what I've learned from looking at price action on stocks and crypto.
Right.
And I also know that most other people can't predict the future. And I look at when people are saying that, the stock market's going to crash, we're going to have a big crash, in 3 months or 6 months or whatever. 90% of the time, people are wrong. Maybe 95% of the time, people are wrong. And, eventually I would, guess that there's going to be either a really big crash coming up, whether it's 1 year or 2 year or 3 years, I don't know. My limited economic understanding is that they can keep delaying the crash by printing more money, which
Right.
will cause more inflation. But if you print more money today, I think it takes a good 6 to 12 months before that effect to show up in the inflation numbers. So they can keep kicking the can down the road,
Yeah.
and they can keep printing money. And then can they battle inflation with more money? Can they just say, who cares about debt? Let's just print more money and as we need it. And so I don't know how they could do that without taming inflation.
Mhm.
And then our here in Canada, I think I get his name wrong all the time, but anyway, so Pierre, the conservative guy, is talking about making Bitcoin. Um, I'm not sure if he was talking about using it or making it a legal tender, like in El Salvador, it's a currency. I think that would be the
Right.
same as a legal tender, but he wants to make Bitcoin something that's more commonplace than just being able to buy it, like I mentioned before, in an ETF or on an
Yeah.
exchange.
Right. Like buy it at CIBC or
Yeah.
RBC or, buy it at have it in your account, just like other
Well,
money.
here's where I was going. He wants to stop printing money, but my understanding, again, is limited, is that if Canada stops printing money, or say the US stops printing money, but all the other G20 countries keep printing money, they're going to have more money than we do. They're going to have more buying power to buy uh, our goods and services at a lower cost. So
Yeah.
I
But
think we're
our dollar
all
is going to go up, right?
well.
Our dollar will be more at parity with the United States, right? It would be more valued if we print less of it, which means we can buy more stuff
For
at
like a dollar. We could buy
yeah,
a
we could
country
buy.
for $1.
I mean,
Is it because we only printed $1 and we can buy a
our
world
exports
with
will
that?
suffer, but our imports will be better off, right?
I don't. That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
good point. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that stuff
But
either.
what if they print so much money before that our currency gets a chance to rebalance that they can just go boom and swipe up a bunch of stuff? Like there's
Yeah.
delays in when you increase here, it doesn't always increase here or decrease here right away. There may be some lag, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like my understanding is again limited that all the G20 countries are all playing very much the same economic game, the same reserve currency, the US dollar, that we kind of all have to keep printing money at the same rate. Otherwise, one's going to fall down. like the guy that stops printing money isn't going to go up higher than the other guys. My understanding is
Yeah.
he'll go down lower.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody wants to their economy and their unemployment to be lower. Right? Everyone wants
Yeah.
the GDP to go up, so everyone has to keep printing money at the same rate to balance. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
this is where
That's
Bitcoin comes in.
That's why I love Bitcoin, is because you can print your own. Like, you can mine it. I'm not sure if there's any left to be mined.
Oh yeah,
But and correct me if I'm wrong. Bitcoin is finite,
yep. 21
meaning that you
billion.
can only have so much, and once it's all mined, it's done because of whatever algorithm set up, and then it just makes it more valuable over time, right? Because that's it. Everyone possesses all the Bitcoin or whatever.
Yeah.
It can't be further mined, and
But it's perceived value. It has no utility,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
It's
that's the
just
thing. Like,
perceived
I was
value.
telling my kids about that. They're like, "Oh, is this because I think one of them wanted I guess just like a an earring that was like, fake diamond earring." And then one of my kids was asking like, "Why is this one like $10 and it looks the same as this one that's 1,000?" And I said, "This is crazy. Okay, this is what people do. They go into a cave and they get a shiny rock and they come out and they're like, this one's worth 1,000,000, and then they go with it. This is what humans have done." And we bought it. We're like, yeah, that one is rare, definitely rare. I'm like, listen, it's a rock. Okay, you found it in a cave. It has no inherent value. It has the value that you, I guess, are. And we've all agreed that diamonds are forever or whatever. It's like, that's crazy to think about that. Can you imagine if you just went into your house right now and got a piece of wood and you're like, this is $1,000,000? Like, that's like mental, right? I mean, like, why? I mean,
But
That's
the thing,
what happened
obviously,
with the NFT, with the JPEGs on the NFT market. People were paying like, whatever, 100K,
Crazy.
300K for an NFT, which was just
Yeah.
a JPEG. And then I think we talked about this before, a lot of people became confused about what an NFT actually is,
Yeah.
right? That's only one use out of like literally hundreds or thousands of uses for an NFT. But, diamonds used to be, I think they were only used in industry for drill bits
right?
back in
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Because they're
maybe the
strong.
1920s. And then the De Beers diamond mine they had a marketing campaign. Someone was, I guess, a marketing genius that was like, well, they look nice and shiny. Let's market them as wedding rings and make them more appealing than a gold wedding ring. So then, you know, people at one point didn't want diamond jewelry. I think rubies were valued, but not diamonds. And
Mm.
then they did some marketing campaign to make it so that diamond rings became this wanted, desired thing,
Mm.
more so than a wedding ring. And they were just able to control the markets because they started buying up all the diamond mines and controlling the distribution of it.
Yeah. And now ask any woman if she's okay with not getting a diamond ring for,
Yeah.
engagement, whatever. Just say, hey, can we not do rings?
Yeah,
Like, how did they get that marketing play where now that every female, like in a, homogeneous, whatever, hetero, I don't, not that word. I'm saying like where you're married one person, not a polygamist, whatever that is, right?
Monogamy.
Yeah.
monogamous.
Like monogamous, like how do they capture all of the women, like to be like, okay, yeah, you want this? And they're like, yes, we do. Like, how did that conversation go down with the group? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
crazy.
They did their
Whatever they
research,
did.
and they
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like marketing cigarettes to, there's pictures of the Marlboro Man or people doing, playing baseball and smoking a cigarette. Like
right.
they did a really good marketing job of it. And then the displays in the stores, they would have, if they had enough money, they would pay to have diamonds right there all spread out. Then the gold rings are kind of like just on the side here. So
Yeah,
the focus is here. And then, whatever brochures in the store and the salesman is paid extra commission to pitch diamonds versus gold.
yeah.
Mm.
So
I
like
mean, yeah,
yeah,
they have these properties. They're amazingly shiny, right? And I suppose women love that shininess. But like you said, Carl, they artificially restricted the market, and that's the reason why we look at diamonds like they're diamonds,
Mm.
right? Just super smart play.
yeah. How are you guys doing for time?
Yeah. What? Probably in next 5 or something. I'll just put a
Sure.
pause point at 48 point, sorry, 40, give me a sec, 48.30. And then we'll probably go to 55. Is that good?
Sure.
Yeah, whatever's
Okay,
good for you guys.
great.
We didn't really touch on too much of the bullet points I sent you guys
Yeah.
for possible talking points, which is fine. And like we're having a good conversation.
Yeah.
Is there anything you guys wanted to talk about or ask me about?
Yeah. There was
Last
one,
podcast?
Rui, that I was interested in. Like, I'm not sure if we have enough time, but the smart contracts part was really interesting to me.
Yeah, same here, and that's a little more elusive to me because I'm just an investor, and it's kind of nice to know how the smart contracts play into the whole crypto thing. I mean, I've never actually looked at a smart contract.
So I thought Taproot, which was the name of a Bitcoin upgrade, was for smart contracts.
Hmm.
But I was doing some more Googling this morning because it's been a while since I looked at Taproot, and I don't think it is. But here, just looking at Google, does Bitcoin have smart contracts? Bitcoin transactions can lock a specific amount of Bitcoin to a script. This amount can only be unlocked for spending when predefined criteria are met. Therefore, in a sense, all Bitcoin transactions are smart contracts. Here's, but that's a smart contract that you cannot program yourself. That's like just
Right.
fixed for Bitcoin transactions.
All right. So
So,
it's probably
so
up to the implementer of the cryptocurrency, or not the currency, in the token to like say what kind of smart contracts they might implement or might not implement. Right.
Well, I think right now there's no smart contracts on Bitcoin. Like you cannot do a smart contract the way you can with Ethereum, right? So with Ethereum, you can program a smart contract to do all kinds of different things, and create dApps that are like Uniswap for your own decentralized exchange. You can't do that on Bitcoin.
so those are two completely different platforms. They don't talk to each other
Ethereum
at
does not
all.
talk to Bitcoin. There, I do believe there's smart contracts that may be coming out for Bitcoin as a separate. It might be a separate blockchain that works in parallel with Bitcoin.
Hmm.
If you look at like Ethereum, Ethereum started out with smart contracts. It's basically I would call it like I think they were calling it the world computer or something like that. It's
Hmm.
basically a distributed computer. You can run code
Hmm.
on all these distributed server nodes.
Like folding at home.
Um,
Do you guys remember that? Where like you could hook up your PlayStation 3 to fold some proteins
oh yeah,
with
yeah,
distributed cloud computing. And then if
yeah,
you're able to fold one, then you get like a credit or something, like kind of like mining, but like it
yeah.
was that distributed GPU
Hmm.
processing.
Yeah, and there was another cryptocurrency called Theta, which is doing streaming video, and they had a streaming app that you could actually run folding
Hmm.
on. And
Mm,
there was Steady was another one. It's a similar concept with smart contracts, and but instead of just running folding at home code,
mhm,
you can run custom code if you're a developer, and that custom code can be to basically any kind of an application that wants to access a distributed ledger, and that could be like OpenSea, the NFT marketplace. It can be Uniswap, a DEX. It could
Yeah.
be like these lending protocols like Compound or Aave. They're all running on Ethereum, and but there's also a few other scaling solutions for Ethereum, which are separate blockchains. So there's if this is the Ethereum blockchain here, sorry, I'm going up and down. And then there's another blockchain here, Polygon Matic. They
Hmm.
have two names because they changed their token to Matic. Matic does scaling. So Matic bulks up transactions. So instead of doing whatever the transaction, like there, each block can do a certain number of transactions on Ethereum. Matic can do more transactions per block, and then so Matic transactions can happen faster and at a lower transaction cost because they bulk
Hmm.
up transactions, and then Matic will dump those transactions into the Ethereum blockchain. Now, there's risk to this because if Matic gets hacked, Like Ethereum could be, their code base could be like rock solid, secure. But if there's a bug in Matic or Matic gets hacked, then that transaction could get lost before it gets validated on the Ethereum blockchain. But my point about that is there's people are solving problems using separate blockchains. Now, Ethereum's also working on a native scaling solution. I forget
Hmm.
what the code name is for it. Cardano is working on a native scaling solution. But going back to Polygon Matic, they're not the only scaling solution for Ethereum. There's a few different ones. There's Avalanche and Optimism. And I think some of them are doing more than just scaling. So, such that if Ethereum just price crashes and people stop using it, you could still write dApps on Avalanche or Optimism,
Hmm.
right? So there's, and then if you look at the way Polkadot works, they have like a hub and spoke model where there's, I think of it like a blockchain of blockchains, or they call them side chains or parachains. They all have different terminology, but it's almost like an array in computing, where
Hmm.
each cell of an array can contain another array, which in turn can contain more arrays. So you can have multi-dimensional blockchains that are all kind of connected to each other, but they
Hmm.
have to be written so they're interoperable. So to go back to your initial question, smart contracts in Ethereum will not work on Bitcoin. However, you can have wrapped Bitcoin, which sits on Ethereum, and then you can use smart contracts on Ethereum to interact with wrapped Bitcoin. But to get your Bitcoin from a Bitcoin blockchain and
Hmm.
wrap it to put it on Ethereum, you're no longer your Bitcoin's no longer secure on the Bitcoin blockchain.
So you're converting it.
So now you're relying on the security and the integrity of the code on Ethereum, and
Right.
also the project that wraps that Bitcoin.
Hmm.
That's so there's the Ethereum blockchain, and then there's the project that creates the wrapped Bitcoin. How decentralized is that project? Are
Right.
the owners going to do a rug pull, like be like the next Do Kwon and take all your Bitcoin? So there's a
Hmm.
lot of like risks to when you're moving stuff off chains, when those chains are still like basically startup companies. You don't know how many you don't know how many people work at that company. You don't know how many developers are there. You don't know
Right.
how much of their code is open source, unless you're like right into this stuff and you're just like, and you really have your nose to the ground.
Hmm.
Um, but I do believe there's projects working on smart contracts for Bitcoin, and some of them maybe, I don't want to say, I don't know. Some of them may be separate blockchains,
Yeah.
and some of them may be upgrades to the existing Bitcoin system, or the Bitcoin chain. But my understanding is there's been a lot of resistance to changing Bitcoin to add smart contracts,
Hmm.
because the goal and the nature of Bitcoin isn't to become a supercomputer.
Right.
It's not to allow you to create dexes and exchanges on Bitcoin.
Hmm.
Um, it's they don't want to take the focus away from Bitcoin,
Yeah, that's the thing.
but
Like,
it
what
is.
is it even? It's just a scarce resource. If you mentioned all these other projects, they have some kind of reason behind them or utility.
Mhm.
And ones are dexes, ones they convert things, another one they handle file storage. But literally, Bitcoin does nothing at all. It just sits there.
Just
It's
looks
just a
pretty.
scarce resource, like a diamond. They
So this is there was
I
a
mean,
clip
diamonds aren't
yesterday.
scarce.
Yeah, there's a clip yesterday from Elizabeth Warren. She's a senator in the U.S., and she was saying that Bitcoin is nothing, and
Mhm.
commodities like silver and gold or platinum are actually physical, tangible things. And then
Yeah.
right after her clip, it segued to Michael Saylor. That was, he was going on about Bitcoin is, it's energy. And actually, one what really got me there was he was going, video has been dematerialized to digital.
Hmm.
Books and words have been dematerialized from the printed page to digital.
Mhm.
And now money using Bitcoin or via Bitcoin has been dematerialized from physical money to digital money.
Yeah.
Right.
So if Bitcoin is nothing, then Netflix is nothing, and so
Right,
is
right.
Spotify is nothing. So how can
Right.
Spotify be worth however many billions they're worth on the stock market and generate revenue and jobs for people if they're nothing?
For
Mhm.
sure.
You know,
You know
and
what?
that's yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to agree with Elizabeth Warren, so I'll retract what I just said.
You know what I just realized, like when you were talking about this, like how does this, all these coins are different. It's almost like what they need to do is morph the stock market into, like, forget stocks for, let's say they didn't exist. The companies as stocks didn't exist for a
Mhm.
second. Let's just say that when you found a new, or when a company goes public, or maybe even before that, it gets a currency, right? And that currency has some kind of a feature and functionality. Like we're talking about, Bitcoin has this, where Cardano has this, and they implement these things. It's almost like those are the APIs of the stock coin of that company. But that it's a little different because, like, some of those are decentralized, meaning that no one really owns them, right? um but it's almost like it'd be nice to have, like, you know if a company gets big, they have their own crypto, but that's basically what gets traded. Like, it's almost like the crypto needs to connect with the company as a stock. But how does that work for companies that, sorry, crypto that's not related to a company, just someone created it, or whatever? But it'd be nice to say, hey, I have, like, oh, how much coin or Bitcoin? It's like, oh, I got this or whatever. It's like, I also got like 100 Facebook bucks or whatever, but that's a crypto coin, but that's
Mhm.
also the stock. I'm not sure if I'm what I'm saying makes sense, but that kind of connection could be cool, where when you invest in a crypto, it's also a company, but probably gets away from the decentralized part of it, because then it's centralized at that company.
Right.
But I wonder if you guys think there'll be more company, or maybe already, is there companies offering their own crypto coin?
Yeah, I think so, right, Carl?
Um,
What do
well,
you mean companies? Like, because I know
Like,
crypto.com is a company and
no,
they
I
have a
meant, like,
centralized.
is there like a Tesla coin? Is there I know,
I
like,
see what you
Elon
mean.
made Doge, or just threw the idea out there, or whatever it was, but, like, is there a coin for a company right now? You know what I mean? Like,
Didn't some
this is a
companies toy
Twitter
with that? Was it EB
Twitter bot.
Games wanted to do it?
Oh,
Or was it
really?
some company was toying with that?
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a few, but they're not really hitting my radar because they're like they're not in the top 100 market cap, so they're not
Hmm.
like big projects. Um, yeah, if you look at crypto.com, they have their own token, and Cardano's token is used for
Okay.
Cardano, for example, the Cardano token is used for same as the Ethereum token. It's used for transaction fees,
Hmm.
but people are buying the token as an investment,
Mhm.
right? So it's like, do you really want to invest in something that's really just used for a payment system, like a payment token for
Right.
transaction fees? And people are. It's I think in the long run, stock markets will eventually get on the blockchain and just go 24/7,
Yeah.
and they'll have
We'll see.
maybe they will own their own blockchain that won't be decentralized,
That's
but
all
they'll
going to come down
eventually.
to the government.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's also like there's government, but there's also, what do the big banks want? What do the big investors want?
Hmm.
There's still like the government generally is going to do in most countries what they're going to follow the money, right? So what do the big guys
Right.
want? What do the banks want? What do the whales want? Do they
Hmm.
want 24/7 trading? The you know, or are they going to just squash the crypto market? Because ultimately, one of the advantages and one of the reasons crypto is so popular is because people can trade it and buy it and sell
Hmm.
it in off hours, like on weekends or late at night,
Right.
and not have to worry
Right.
about
The
checking it
market
the
doesn't
next day.
close, kind of thing.
Yeah, and they don't have to worry
Right.
about whether their order was executed. If they place an order at nighttime on the regular stock market, you don't have to check it
Right.
the next day to see if it was executed. You see it pretty much right away.
Yeah.
It's pretty
You
old
know,
fashioned to think that the stock market closes. That's like, it's like, no, like, you can order from Amazon at any time, right?
but there
Like,
could
they
be
should have,
some unforeseen reasons, right? We don't know. There's some unforeseen reasons
mm,
why it closes. And if it was
yeah,
profitable, I guarantee you that would be open 24/7. There's a reason they
for
restrict,
sure.
and most of the
Yeah.
money is in the stock market. market. Like big players are in the stock market, not in crypto right now.
It's
So if it was
possible.
profitable, yeah.
I'm just thinking it's possible that they're just running legacy code that's like 30, 40 years old code on those systems, and the
It's
risk of
possible. Yeah.
changing of what might be a bunch of spaghetti code could be it could just be too much.
Yeah. And all the paper documents too for the past like 150 years they have to keep track of, and the times and stuff.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, I
there's the
mean,
middleman, right? There's the
there are a lot
middleman
of factors.
there's the middleman in place that a 24/7 blockchain based system would eradicate. And if those middlemen are making enough money to have enough sway over what goes on, they have enough voting rights for how the Nasdaq or whatever, the Dow Jones or sorry, the New York stock market is run, then they're gonna protect themselves, right? So there's probably some protectionism in there
Exactly.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Money talks, man.
All right, so we delved super deep into this day. We kind of went all the way to oblivion and back again, and I think we're all gonna die in the best way possible. Hold on, we're gonna live, right? That was the we're gonna eradicate it this time, or do we lose this time? What's your
I
vote?
think this time around we're gonna lose.
Okay,
The
we're
story's
done.
not gonna change.
And then Carl, what do you think? We're done, right?
Well, I just going back to what Rudy said last time. Invest foolishly, and now I forget exactly what you said.
Invest stupidly and you'll be stupidly rich.
Right?
Don't take that advice.
No, but I think you said invest foolishly and you'll be foolishly rich or foolishly
Yeah,
wealthy.
something like that. I
I
can't
was
recall.
thinking about that because I didn't really react to it when you said it, because so it's kind of like on my own little train of thought. But there's a lot of truth to that. If you invest foolishly, you will be wealthy, foolishly wealthy, even if you lose all your money. You'll have
Right.
wealth of knowledge of what not to do next time.
There you go.
That's
Nice.
very true. That's why it's very important to fail, and that's what's made me so successful. No, just kidding, just like pure failures. But yeah. All right. Thanks, Carl. We'll probably have you back every couple of weeks, just dipping into this stuff. And I love how this went super organic, up and down and back again. And thank you, Carl. Thank you, Rui.
Yeah. Take care, everybody.
Thanks,
Have a good
guys.
day.
Yep.
We'll see you guys next time.
Take care.